We are going to be talking about sex today. There'll be some spicy topics, some spicy language. If there's anyone younger listening, now might be a good time to go back to our previous episode about mothers or the episode about Michael Scott. That was a fun one.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin. I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. And today is a special episode because we have our first guest on the podcast. So welcome to Lisa Strube. Lisa is a therapist in the Atlanta area. She is a certified emotionally focused couples therapist. That's actually how I met her at a training. And she's also a certified sex therapist. Today, we've brought her on so that we can talk about sex and masculinity and how those things connect. We are very excited to have you here, Lisa. I like the fun fact that you gave me. Lisa was a competitive rock climber and you competed in the Paralympics in Spain. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's pretty cool.
Competitive, yeah. That was lifetimes ago before a human came out of me, so those were my younger days.
That's a good way to put that.
Literal lifetimes ago.
Right?
Love it.
Yeah.
Very
You ready for some
nice.
fun, guys?
Yeah, we are so happy to have you here. Before we
to be
do get started, just want to give a little trigger warning.
Mhm.
We are going to be talking about sex today. There'll be some spicy topics, some spicy language. And so if there's anyone younger listening, now might be a good time to go back to our previous episode about mothers or the episode about Michael Scott. That was
There
a
you
fun one.
Oh,
And
Michael Scott.
maybe wait till next week to get back in touch with us.
Yeah.
But otherwise, let's jump in here.
Yeah. So Lisa, I just have to ask, this is I got two different therapists. Lisa, what is a sex therapist?
So a sex therapist does the same things as a regular therapist. However, they are trained in matters of sexuality, and we also learn how to work with these sexual issues in a shame-free way. So when
Okay.
we start getting the training, we have to do a SAR, which is, I don't remember what it's called. I'm not really good with acronyms, but we watch a lot of visual stimulation movies to see what biases come up so we can get used to seeing sexual stimulation and talking about it. Well, we have a specialty of working with it and creating safety with psychoeducation and talking to people away from shame. That's how I would say a sex therapist is. And we would know how to work through porn and sexual desire in a more grounded way with frameworks and tools dedicated to these purposes specifically.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So I
Right.
like how you said we do the same thing as typical therapists.
Yeah.
Which you also are.
Yeah, which you also are, right? But you're focused on a specific area, a specific thing that
Mhm.
affects everybody, right? Affects all of
Everyone.
us. And so you have that specific training that kind of gives you the tools necessary to have those conversations that may be a little more challenging or maybe a little more personal or emotional or what have you. Is that kind of the right way to put that?
Exactly. And it's just the norm. People who are not sex therapists or not in the field are very anxious, awkward, talking about sex.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you look at the culture we
Yeah.
have in this country too. So it's very normal to be awkward and anxious about sex.
Well, Alex and I were awkward and anxious just talking about having this conversation with a sex therapist. So it's good. I think, again, as we continue to go through this kind of journey together on this podcast, breaking down some of those walls, breaking down some of those barriers, normalizing, I guess, some of those conversations, I think is something that's been really important for us, really powerful for me. And so I appreciate the conversation. I hope to learn a lot today about a topic that, frankly, I don't know
taboo.
a whole much about. Yeah. And yeah, the
Little
taboo
taboo.
aspect of it for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Lisa, why did you choose to become a sex therapist?
Oh, so my boss, my first private practice boss, came into my grad school program to talk about what she did. And she's this tiny Eastern European. Oh, she's from Finland, and she looks like a sex therapist. She has the accent, right? And one of the first things she said about sex therapy is that it's fun and it's a decent way to earn money. And I was like, oh shit, that sounds really
I like
nice.
both of those
Right?
things. Well, again, we're so happy to have you here, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So we usually have a few different segments in our podcast, so we're gonna roll with that now. We're gonna start with one of our segments.
Why do men like this?
This segment that we start with is why do men like this? And when we met, you had a great idea for this segment of why do men like to give their partners orgasms? And I think that was just an excellent topic to be able to talk about. We could have gone like too on the nose and like, why do men like sex? I mean, we don't need to really talk about that
Right.
one so much, but I like the other side of it. There's another purpose that we have in sex sometimes. And so the way that we go through this, we try to answer 3 questions. Why do men like this? Why might that be a positive thing? And are there any reasons it might be negative? So let's start with that. Why do men like giving their partners orgasms? And so I think it would be too easy maybe to start with Lisa here. And so you can sit there and watch us squirm a little bit.
Yeah,
and
please,
then
I would
we'll
love
let
to.
you rescue us in a second. So Bobby.
I think, again, this is the not sex therapist and not therapist, right? For me, I think oftentimes the person that you're in that situation with is somebody that you care about. And so therefore you want to share the pleasures of what you're doing, right? The pleasures of having sex with somebody, the pleasures of being intimate with somebody, right? And I think we're going to talk a little bit about sex and intimacy, hopefully. But I think to me, it's what can I do for the other person? I think there's also a part of it too of there's a pleasure, joy, what have you, for the individual that's giving the other person an orgasm that helps them to maybe reach that sexual peak or whatever it is. So I think maybe there's a combination of I want to do something nice for somebody else, but it also makes me feel good at the same time in some ways. I don't know.
I like that.
Give me your thoughts.
So for me, I think that another part of it is I don't know the exact word to use, but I want to say like competition almost. I think there's an aspect in masculinity of like I have to complete the act or the task, and I'm only valuable if I can perform in that way, if I can make my partner have an orgasm. One part of it is it's usually easier for men to reach orgasm, but they want to know, like, did I do a good job? Was I able to be seen as strong or something like that? I don't know, Lisa, what do you think on this one?
I think all your answers, like I've heard those answers before in men. And I've talked to men in the sexual wellness field because I was like interested to hear what they thought about that. And I do think it's a lot like tied to worth, where I have to give my partner an orgasm. I have to be man enough to give my partner an orgasm. I have to pleasure my partner, or else I'm not really a man. I'm not doing my job if I'm not pleasing my woman. I want to be good in the bedroom. That's a badge right there of honor, is being good in the bedroom. I agree with a lot of your answers.
We've talked about that self-worth thing a couple of times in a couple of our episodes. And so I love that you unknowingly brought that in. That's interesting because it is that like currency of the bedroom of, well, I orgasm, did you orgasm? So like I think there's
what does this say about me?
Right.
Am I good enough?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're getting deep there.
Love that.
Am I good enough?
All right. Yeah, so I think this is going to circle back in when we ask some of these other questions, but let's maybe start with why might this be a good thing?
If we go back to the worth thing, right? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you have that worth. It makes you feel like you're accomplishing the task you set out.
I think one thing you mentioned before also is I want to make sure that we're sharing in an experience, and that's good to be thinking, are we both enjoying ourselves?
Yeah. I don't know, Lisa, what are your thoughts?
Ooh. So it can be good where you're like, I really care about you. I want to get you off tonight. I love the way you sound when you have an orgasm. It's music to my ears. I think that can be a beautiful part of wanting to give a woman orgasm. A partner can feel very special when there's this attention to pleasure bestowed upon them.
So I feel like we're talking about just this part and kind of saving the other side here. So let's get right into
Yeah, we're
that
saving
next
the other
part.
side for sure.
What are some of the ways this might not be a good thing? How can this turn into an issue?
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna let you two go first and why you think, like, I don't know if you heard from friends or even other, like, genders.
Yeah, well, even just analyzing the way we've talked about this so far, I think one of the ways it might not be a good thing is it sounds like it's a lot of pressure that
Mhm.
men are putting on themselves
Yeah.
to make sure I have worth, I'm valuable, I've done a good job, and it almost sounds like it might take you out of the presence of the connection part of sex, and now
Yeah.
you're just doing the I need to solve the problem part of sex.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like there's a task at hand, so I need to accomplish that, but that's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on the, totality of maybe what's going on. I think the other thing too is as we were talking about this, I started to think of, well, like, then what happens if you're not able to achieve that, right?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that's the opposite question of why is it a problem when you don't give your partner an orgasm, which isn't the question that we're answering, but I
Well,
think it
I
plays
think
into
the
this.
problem with not giving them an orgasm is you put so much pressure on yourself to give them, and
Right.
now you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Huh.
think it's sometimes it can be a challenging thing to have a conversation with a partner. I would say the majority of the time when a man has an orgasm, there is a pretty clear and apparent I had an orgasm. It's not always the same case with women, right? And
Uh-huh.
so in those heterosexual relationships, you don't necessarily know. So you want to ask that question. Hey, how was it for you? Did you have an orgasm? Right? So I think there's a lot of those questions that maybe can be uncomfortable
Let's
in
be
certain
honest, though.
relationships.
Let's be honest, though, Bobby. The question is, you did too, right?
Right.
It's not, did you? It's
Right.
you did too, right? Tell me
Tell me the truth.
tell me I'm a worthy man.
It's a really good point.
Very,
So
very,
I don't know. That's just some of the
yeah.
thoughts that came up of like,
Yeah.
on the opposite side of like, well, if it doesn't happen,
Yeah,
all of
you're
these
kind of setting
things.
yourself up for
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
I love hearing what, like, the genuine, like, real talk of what maybe having the pressure or not having an orgasm. And I also want to bring it back to sex is more than just penetration. And people forget that because there's so much focus on the orgasm, which is really just the cherry on top. Let's look at sex more like intimacy. Like, do you like being playful with your partner? Do they have a great laugh? Was it steamy in the kitchen together? And I don't mean about cooking. Foreplay can last days. And even with penetration, that's just a part of the whole experience. For real, you can experience pleasure for hours with no penetration involved, and people lose sight of that. And when you focus on giving your partner pleasure, you lose sight of enjoying pleasure for yourself. And the best way to experience intimacy is if you enjoy pleasure for yourself, and that way your partner, "Oh, okay, it's okay. I could relax." And then your partner is focusing on themselves too.
So
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
maybe the right question to be asking, should we even be focusing on the orgasm aspect of it, or should that just be something that is a natural progression in
Like a side effect
yeah.
of presence and connection and sex.
Presence, connection, what is feeling good in the moment? Do you like looking at your partner's eyes? How are you experiencing touch? I would say the whole body is a wonderland. It's not just the genital areas. So when you are focusing on just giving your partner an orgasm, you're missing out on a whole experience that could be long lasting. And the poor penis, the poor vagina, like, let's give them a break, you know?
It's an interesting way to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, these are, again, conversations I've never had the opportunity to talk to a sex therapist. So really
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
conversation so far. I'm looking forward to
yeah.
the rest of this.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
learned some interesting stuff that I think everybody should learn,
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
validating.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So thank you for joining us for that segment. I feel
Yeah.
like that was great foreplay for our main topic here.
But we're not focusing
Yeah.
on the end, Alex. We're enjoying the
So,
totality of the podcast.
We're just going to be present and hope that we can find connection
There we
in
go.
this.
That's it.
Yes. Yes, so let's jump into talking a little bit more in depth about
Mhm.
sex and masculinity. So we're
Yeah.
going to split it up into 3 sections today. I would love to talk about a concept that I learned from you, Lisa, when we were
Mhm.
talking the other day, the sexual vision.
Yeah.
Would love to also talk about common issues men struggle
Mhm.
with.
Yeah.
And then we'll end with some things that might be useful for sexual health, especially
Mhm.
because we have an expert here today. I think that would be great to be able to.
It's going to be the take advantage of the expert section, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
exactly.
third section.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about for our podcast is this is not something where we are wanting to heavily just give advice. Here's what you should do. If you're
Mhm.
struggling with this, do X, Y, and Z. It's more of how can we model what it's like to be curious and want to learn and want to
Yeah.
grow together, hoping that other people will do the same. That being said, we have an expert here, so we might do some advice. So, Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about this concept of the sexual vision?
Yeah, I don't want to get too clinical because it's our audience is not just made up of clinicians, but it came from a really compassionate model where different sexual health values guide like what do you want your experiences to be like in regards to sex? How do you imagine being with your partner in a respectful way, an honest way, a way that where boundaries can also be respected, where there is no exploitation? And those are guidelines to help you figure out, is this a sexually healthy behavior? Does it honor both me and my partner? So
Mm,
you think about consent, which is, I mean, I made a fucking shirt about consent, and it's really sad how people don't understand it or know more about it.
Yeah.
Uh, so consent and honesty is such an important piece when it comes to sexual vision.
mm.
So, how are these resonating with you guys? Like honesty and boundaries, non-exploitation. These are the kinds of things that you need to have a sexually healthy relationship.
So, Lisa, question for you. Is a
Yeah.
sexual vision something that an individual has? Is it something that you have as a couple? Is it both? Does it change? Kind of what are your
I
thoughts
think
there?
I think it's a flexible concept, right?
Mm.
Because the term was in one of the models, but I think it's very important to apply it to a couple as well because you're collaborating, you're connecting, and it is important to be on the same page. And
Hmm.
you both need consent. There should be no exploitation. There definitely needs to be honesty. And so I do think a vision is important for the couple as well aligning with these values. I should probably give you these values as attachment.
I like it.
Yeah, would love that.
Yeah.
So, just listening to you talk about the sexual vision,
Mhm.
the thing that comes up for me is this is not probably not a very common exercise, maybe outside of sex therapy, that at least most
Yeah.
men are doing. We're not thinking about, well, what does honesty look like for me? What does safety
Yeah.
look like for me? What does consent look like for me? You were talking before about the poor penis and vagina. Give some other parts of your body some, like, even thinking about that as like that's probably not a very common sexual vision for most people. It's
Yeah.
penetration, and sex is just penetration for a lot of people. I feel like not a lot of people talk about or think about their vision of what intimacy
Yeah.
is.
I think you're right about that. And that's why people come in or sometimes they wait for a real long time before getting help and they hear this for their first time like, "Oh, that's what consent is." And people are never taught consent or, "Wow, my
Mm,
relationship I didn't know that I could say no in
mm,
a sexual encounter." I always felt the pressure. It is sad. It's such a simple so many of these are simple concepts, but a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah. So I want to ask, in your profession, in your practice,
Mhm.
who typically initiates a conversation with a sex therapist, if you will?
Yeah, I from what I've experienced, and I might not have the same experience as every other sex therapist,
Sure.
but I feel like women that I've seen are a little, like, more about the emotional connection, and men are more about the sexual connection, and I gotta be real honest with you. Like in many of my supervision groups, it can be hard for women to give compassion to a man who's like, I want sex. How come we don't have any sex? That's a really hard place for a lot of female therapists to be.
Mhm.
It really gets raw for a lot of female therapists when a male client gets like that. But like learning through other supervision groups and from experience myself, that men a lot of men connect through sex. And to be fair, it's hard for a lot of men to connect emotionally because, we're not really supportive of that in this culture.
We've talked about that so many times, and I love that you're
Yeah.
bringing up sex and emotion as like these two separate concepts. As we think about this manliness thing that we've been talking about, I think there's oftentimes the absence or the pulling away of emotion in a lot of these topics, and maybe in sex that's another one of these places where that happens. So, can you have emotionless sex? Is that a thing?
Um, that's a really good question. And I think in the case of a couple that come in to see me, a lot of times maybe the man doesn't know how to express his emotion when he has a hard time having sex because a lot of times they might miss their partner. There might be a longing to just connect and know that they're there. And honestly, a lot of men have a hard time asking for help when it comes to issues. So after years of being a sex therapist, I'm in a better place to say like it's hard for men because there's not a lot of safe spaces for men to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And so now I can look at a situation and see the pain in both of them. Both of them feel isolated and alone, and they don't know how to reach for each other.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? The idea of can you have emotionless sex? I think when men are asking for sex, sometimes they're saying, this is the only way that I know how to feel emotionally
Yes.
good to you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was my sexual vision that I
Yeah.
grew up with,
Yeah.
that men don't talk about feelings. Men aren't
Mm.
vulnerable. Men are supposed to have as much sex as they possibly can. So now why aren't we having enough sex? Why aren't we doing that? Right. It goes back to where you're saying the female therapist is sitting there with a man and saying, it's really hard to be compassionate for you right now because you're so adamant about this, and they're kind of stuck in their sexual vision
Yeah.
of they grew up
Yeah.
in society.
And
Inter-
that's how programmed our society is. Oh, men love sex. There's no emotion when it comes. There's a lot of emotion in men when it comes to sex. There's
Yeah.
so much when you dig deeper. And I
Yeah.
just want to give more space for that because I think that's part of
Mhm.
the problem.
Yeah, I love that. I think we're kind of moving into these
Yeah.
common issues men struggle with regarding
Yes,
sex. And so
sure.
I think this could be a good place for us to start with that. You're naming now, right? Talking about common issues.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying men do want more than just orgasm. Men do want more than just to be able to say, I've had sex. And so, can you
Um,
talk a little bit about what it's like to recognize that issue when it comes to men?
Yeah, I think when I have to use some EFT terms, but like wash it over the couple, it's like a light, when someone feels recognized for the first time and
Yeah.
understood and seen. It's thank you for understanding what it's like to be me, because I could not express this in words. I felt this, but I can't talk about this with anyone. I don't know how. So putting words to an experience could be really powerful.
Huh.
There's someone who doesn't know how to reach out when they feel pain.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love that, kind of making it safe for them by showing there are words for this. Here they are. You don't have to have the pressure to come up with them all by yourself.
Yeah, and as I talked about in one of my recordings, men are under a lot of pressure that you got to look good, you got to have this six pack, you got to make a big, big fat paycheck, you got to provide, you got to perform. And so, no, it kind of angers me that, like, we're not looking at the underlying issues here. We're just focused on the surface, which is where all the
Right.
problems are.
Yeah, I wonder if that's actually connecting to you're saying that's under the surface. When
Yeah.
I think of what are the common issues men struggle with sex, the first thing that comes to my mind is erectile dysfunction,
Mm.
premature ejaculation. I don't think about all of the underneath. And for you, do you see that it's usually that those are the manifestation
Yeah.
of those deeper
Yeah,
issues?
I do. Like, if you're stressing out all the fucking time because you want the nice house and fancy car, and you're like, work, 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 that's an erection killer. Or if you're having
Mhm,
problems in your relationship and, your partner is criticizing you and demeaning you, and you're doing the same, that's also impacting your erection, because whatever happens in the mind, mentally and emotionally, that's gonna impact your whole body, which includes your penis. And not
mhm.
enough people are aware of that. They take the story so personally, but there are many variables involved in having problems with your erection.
So you mentioned the whole body, right? And we're starting to talk about physical things. So coming from, again, myself, who has, this is not my area of expertise. A
Yeah.
lot of this, I look at this and I go, well, that's a physical thing in my body. I'm going to go to a physician to get that, worked out, or to see if there's a problem physically with my body. How does that process usually work in your experience?
I think it goes either way. Sometimes
Okay.
people go directly to like a doctor, a urologist, primary care. I have problems with my penis. They'll give them Cialis or Viagra, but the problem still doesn't go away. There's
Okay.
still something there, and then they might come to hopefully a sex therapist.
So you mean
But
the magic pill doesn't work for every
oh my
situation every single
gosh,
time?
no,
Sometimes
it's
you have to
yeah,
talk about your feelings too. What a mind-bending concept.
right? Like first, a little foreplay would be good before or after you pop that pill. So you have to do the stimulation first before you get the erection, and a lot of people stop taking the pills so they don't work anymore, or they don't work as fast, or they get a misconception. But when we do see people and there is an issue like erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, which is a little bit more complex, I would recommend for them to see a doctor, because
Mhm.
there could be many issues that impact erectile dysfunction, like SSRIs, like blood pressure. Smoking is so bad too, like
Mhm.
smoking, vaping, chronic illness. So it could definitely be a health issue that cannot be overlooked
But smoking and
before
vaping,
deciding.
they make you look so cool, and don't cool guys, I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Mm, yeah.
Kidding. Interesting. So we're talking about the common issues. What are some of the lesser common issues that you deal with as a sex therapist that maybe some
Hmm.
people don't think about?
That's a difficult question because I'm so used to seeing common issues. Hmm. Yeah. And like even Puronies. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Curvature of the penis?
Yeah.
Yeah, even though men who have it feel like they're the only ones, that's also more common than people think it is.
I think what's actually interesting in how you're responding to this, though, Lisa,
Mhm.
is you're saying, well, I only see common issues. For me, I think what that says is these issues are more common than we think.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
aren't a million different things happening. There are very common issues and they're happening for a lot of people. There are well-trained people to work with that, sex therapists, because this is
yeah,
so normal. And I think that might be important that we're able to name that just to
yeah,
normalize. This is an experience that a lot of people do go through. And maybe to be able to talk about that can lessen the pressure a little bit.
yeah, I think that's a good point, Alex, and I would say if it was between genders, more painful sex, on the female side, and
Mhm.
more trauma on the female side. I also think men have a harder time coming in. Uh,
Mhm.
I think they will come in as "Well, I couldn't deal with this anymore." Uh, so
Like a last ditch effort,
the
not like
last ditch effort.
I'd like to figure this out maybe a little proactively, you're saying.
Yeah,
Well, and
because
as we
we
think about some of
yeah,
that, the societal pressure, societal issues, if you are feeling emotionally disconnected from your partner, and therefore you're having challenges in the bedroom or kitchen or wherever it is, right?
yeah,
Um,
sure.
you can feel like less of a man. I am so vulnerable at this point that there's
Mm.
nothing left of me, and I can see that being a real challenge for some people.
Mm,
So many layers of that onion that peel back till there's nothing left. What you're saying, and I think what we've talked about, what I've heard you say a lot, Alex, is sometimes that first step is that vulnerability,
Mm.
and understanding that need to take that step in and have that maybe challenging conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did a recording, and the reason why we did a recording instead of a live webinar is because we knew men wouldn't show up to a live webinar about sexual issues.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. But they'll listen to a recording because they can do it
they could do it. Yeah.
secretively. Yeah. And
Mhm.
interesting.
Do you
Yeah.
see a lot of couples for sexual issues? Because I know you work
Mhm.
with couples. Do they often
Mhm.
come in saying we want to come to you because of sexual issues?
They like the EFT sex therapy combo.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
As the couples therapist in me, one thing that I'm so interested in as we think about these common issues, and some of this has come up in the work that I've done with couples as well, is when there is any form of sexual dysfunction, erectile
Mhm.
dysfunction, anything else, there's also an impact it has on the relationship, right? Not just one person. And sometimes
Yeah.
what you hear is my partner attracted to me because
Mhm.
he's having a hard time achieving an erection when we're
Yeah.
wanting to have sex. And I think those are really hard conversations for people to have
Yeah.
outside of the therapy, sometimes even in the therapy. Is that
Mhm.
something that you experience a lot as well? Like the way that it impacts a relationship?
Yeah, I think people are so like hyper focused on I don't feel attractive, and that really hits the core of like I
Mm,
don't feel like I matter, or I feel like you don't love me anymore. And those are very painful issues that anyone can deal with. Like you don't want me anymore. But we gotta, like, expand the focus and let people know there are so many issues, like, age is a big factor on, like, why, erections change over time because you're not gonna have erections in your 50s or 60s like you did in your 20s, and I don't think people realize that we age and our bodies change, and that's normal,
Yeah. People
so
don't realize it. And more importantly, people don't want to talk about it. And I think that,
Yep.
there's so many taboos that we have, right? It's like you can go have a beer with somebody and go, oh, my doctor put me on this for my blood pressure. My doctor put me on this for my high cholesterol. I just don't know that I see the conversation of, oh, my doctor put me on this because I can't get an erection. Like
Mhm.
maybe with some friends in some circles, that's a conversation that can happen, but I think it's less likely, right? I think it's less
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, and I also want to say to people out there, if you've been struggling with sexual issues for years and it was so much suffering you finally got help, I think it's important to know that it's going to take time to get to a better place. Uh, and get a support team with mental health, emotional issues, work with sex therapists, work with a urologist, a pelvic floor therapist might help,
mhm.
because it is a team approach to focus on these different areas that happen when sexual issues occur.
Yeah. So you're kind of naming some of the things that could be useful for sexual health. And so I think it'd be a good time to transition into that. You just
Mhm.
mentioned pelvic floor. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I don't think that's
Yeah.
something that we talk so much about.
Yeah, so pelvic floor therapy is good for anybody with a pelvis. It is not just for one gender.
How about
And a
that?
lot of like you use your pelvic muscles for everything, going to the bathroom. I mean, like every type of functioning. Pelvic floor really does help with sex. And if those muscles aren't strong, then sex can be painful. And that also could be the case with men. If there is erectile dysfunction, it would be good at looking at the pelvic floor muscles to see if they need more strengthening,
Mhm.
which could be a really wonderful way to get more function back and also be healthier because the exercises are wonderful and they help your whole body function better too.
You're naming so many different things, right? You even talked about before smoking, right? So you've talked about now smoking, medication, pelvic
Mhm.
floor exercises, health in general. It sounds like when we're talking about what is useful for sexual health, it sounds like kind of the idea is health and sexual health probably are very connected in a lot of
It's
ways.
totally connected,
Mhm.
and I read Stephanie Bueller, I look her up, she's a well-known sex, therapist and educator. If you exercise regularly, then you have an 80% less chance of, having erectile issues. So exercise is a really important part of your sex life. If you wanna have a healthy life and just a better, sexual experiences with your partner.
I think that's cool. So I wanna ask a question, and we brought up the medication aspect of this, right? You mentioned
Mhm.
Viagra, Cialis. I
Mhm.
think we're seeing an expansion of some of these medicines available. I mean, I see them scrolling through Instagram and YouTube and
Yeah.
all these things, Blue Chew, and again, I don't know the differences in a lot of these.
Yeah.
Would love your opinion on their place in sexual health. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on the medicine side of things.
I think they could be very useful, but you also have to work on the mental and emotional aspect. If there's anxiety there, it would be good to work with a sex therapist and work also with a doctor if there's problems with side effects and just the course of treatment. Like you might not need them after a certain period of time. So it's good to be in contact with, I think Dr. Farley was saying, like at least once a year, go to your
Mhm.
doctor just to see how it's going with the medication and if there are deep, like anxiety, emotional issues, then I would definitely say that's not going to go away. So it's good to address those things, and it'll
Like
be
you said.
better after that.
Yeah, that underlying reason may be an emotional one that you have to address as opposed to,
Yeah.
just a physical thing that the pill can fix or help you with. So interesting. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And so we
Mhm.
did an episode on health and how it connects to mental health. And I feel like we're back.
Mhm.
We're saying, oh, you're saying health impacts sexual health. And then you said, yes, and mental health is also an important part of that. You need to be
Yeah.
able to talk about anxiety. You brought up before stress and pressure are erection killers, right? That all of these things need to come in a holistic
Yeah.
way in order to truly be able to understand how we're going to be able to improve sexual health, mental health, physical health all together. It sounds like.
Yeah. I like that, and I also think it's just really good with intimacy if there is safety there, even like not just for the female, for a heterosexual couple, but also for the male, because there needs to be room for like, hey, I think I might have peed, or hey, I just farted, so sorry about that. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
made a mistake. I'm sorry, I got an erection. I'm so tired. The just the freedom to be yourself and to not have everything go perfectly
Mm.
because sex and intimacy is not perfect, but it could be wonderful as long as we're not putting the pressure on ourselves and trying to live up to expectations that are not realistic. Uh,
Where do some of those non-realistic expectations come from? Are they from
like pornography, TV commercials, movies, misinformed individuals everywhere,
you mean the TV
culture.
show that I was
Yeah.
watching when they just get to the apartment, they have sex within 4 seconds of being
Yeah.
there, both orgasm, and that's not real life? Come on now.
Yeah.
For everybody, maybe for some people, hey, you never know, right?
Yeah, Lisa said, you said we need to do foreplay. We don't see that in movies. That's cool,
It
right?
takes too long to film that, right?
You said you could do foreplay for days. I've never
Right?
seen that in a movie. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
I have
So I guess
this
if you had to
yeah,
give
uh-huh.
one of just the best thing you can do to make sure that your sexual health is maintained as a man.
I would get checked for hormones every year, physical every year, stay connected to people. Connection is good. Like, me and Alex are attachment therapists. So staying connected to people that you really care about, that support you, is one of the preventers for having bad mental health.
I think she just said
Uh,
that you should man up together.
Hey, there we go.
Yes.
I
Take
like
good
that.
care of yourself. Yeah, take good care
Yeah,
of yourself. Have fun in the bedroom. Just be in the moment, and it's okay to make mistakes. And there's no such thing as perfection.
interesting.
I
I
love
like
that.
that.
Yeah. I appreciate you being able to have this conversation with us. I feel like this is such a good message that you're sending here. Just
Yeah,
like,
I
this isn't about pressure. It's about being yourself, feeling comfortable in yourself, connecting with other people. It's a beautiful concept that it's not so much talked about or modeled.
Well, what I like about this is like I can have those conversations and I can feel comfortable having that
Mm.
conversation with someone that I care about, that I trust,
yeah,
that I feel a connection to. I appreciate the opportunity to have that the
Yeah.
conversation with you.
And Lisa, I think you model something so well too, that the way you talk about things, there is no, this is going to be uncomfortable. You're just like talking about foreplay, penis, all of it. Like it's
Yeah.
so natural for you. And I think that's such an important thing probably an important thing to make other people feel comfortable with when you're in therapy with them, to say there's no stigma to like, oh no, we're going to say this word that you don't hear so
Yeah.
much in public. You're just, this is how we talk about this issue.
Yes. Thank you for all the kind words. And I do want to say something. I think this is important too. I opened a sexual wellness store because I felt like people did not understand what turns them on. And for men and women out there, for any gender, I think, there are things like toys that can provide you pleasure where you can
Mhm.
take the pressure off performance. So if you have trouble with erection, even just for like starting off, you could wear a cock ring or a sleeve just to see how that feels. There's a lot of toys that provide pleasure, but they also help with illness, disability, just better health too. So if
Mm.
you're having issues with anxiety or pressure, disconnection because of just all being in your head, which is so common, see if a toy could help. Toys are
Mhm.
fucking wonderful.
Yeah, again, like something that's just not talked about so
Yeah.
much. And so I
Yeah.
love that. And so
Yeah.
let's make sure people do know where to find you. I think
Yeah.
you're at lisajoetherapy.com. Is that one
Yeah.
of the main ways that you could be found?
Yeah, lisajoetherapy.com. And I
Yeah.
also have free guides about sex education because everybody should have education. Check my Lisa Joe spot out. I made it with so much love, and there are free things on there too.
So
So
where's Lisa Joe's spot? Is that
it's a Shopify online store.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
Lisa Joe's spot.
Yeah.
Also, you have some videos
Oh
on
yeah.
YouTube now.
I do have a YouTube channel,
Okay.
and I just came out with a pornography recording because I felt it was really important for clinicians to be more comfortable dealing with porn when they worked with their clients. And I also have uh, a resource book. It's like 55 fucking pages long. I'm tired of looking at it, so one of my colleagues is editing that. I do have a lot of projects in the work because I see a need and I want to meet it because too many people are suffering, and
Mhm.
I want that to stop. I know that's so, like, naive, but
No, but it
needles
shows your passion, right, for a topic
yeah.
and for a place where maybe people don't know where to get that help. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you for wanting to do that. It does sound like there are a lot of resources that you are wanting to make sure are available. I
Yeah,
think you also have a Substack, right?
I do have a Substack
Yeah.
too,
And an
and
Instagram?
and
Yeah, tell us all the
Instagram, I
ways you
do a
can be
Pinterest.
found.
Yeah, and I'm gonna email you, Alex, a list of resources of, like, podcasters I like, good books to read if you're not a clinician, so
Yeah. I
Awesome.
love that. All of this information we will put into the description of the episode. So if
Yeah.
anyone wants to find that, you can click on those directly there. That would be really great. So again, thank you for coming on with us here today. We do have one way that we always like to end our episodes, though. And
yes.
so we've recently been doing a segment called Ask a Therapist versus Ask a Regular Guy. And I think it would be very fitting to ask a sex therapist and ask some regular guys.
Okay.
So are
Yeah,
you up for
great.
it?
Yeah, I'm ready, I'm ready.
Great.
I
You got
know,
a good
like, I'm
question.
just gonna try my best.
Yes. So someone sent us a good one here. All right. So from one of our listeners, they wrote, "My husband wants to have anal sex, but when we do, it doesn't feel pleasurable for me. Do I have to say yes, or is there something we're doing wrong?"
How'd you know I fucking love that question, Alex? I
Is that in
love
your
to talk
wheelhouse?
about
Is
anal
that
sex. I love talking about anal sex.
all right?
I think we
First
asked
of
the
all,
right
I think
here
we hit
this
the
one.
jackpot here. We may have come from a different side here, but we hit the jackpot.
do you wanna go first, or do you want me to go first?
Um,
I think this is a place for the expert to
yeah,
go
let's
first.
start
Yeah.
with the sex
Okay.
therapist first.
Alright. So, if you don't wanna have anal sex, you shouldn't have to. Consent is everything. If you're
Mhm.
not comfortable with it, don't do it. That's my first advice for that. For anybody, any sexual act, if you don't wanna do it, that should be okay with your partner. So, and yes, anal sex can be very pleasurable but you have to prepare the anus. Like, oh my goodness, I wish I had like a I might have to email you that too. Like, I don't have
All right.
but yeah, it
Find this
takes
in the
a lot.
description, everybody.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time for the sphincters to relax, and you do have to use lube, like, like quite a bit of lube. But it takes some time to get the anus ready for penetration. But I would take my time to prepare for anal sex. Don't have anal sex without lubrication, because I've heard from too many clients that it is very painful, and it could be so bad that you might have to go to the hospital because you might tear skin.
Okay, I just want
Um,
to stop you for a second because not
yeah.
everybody is watching this visually. They might just be listening. I want you to know when Lisa said that, she leaned forward to the camera to make sure that she emphasized that point there. That felt like that was a really important thing for you to emphasize.
Feels like the take-home message. if
Yeah,
you will.
like for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
You don't do this without lubrication. Take your time. I'm going to give Alex a solid resource if you are seriously want to do this, but I don't want you to do it unless you are prepared, because you can end up in the emergency room if things go wrong. And I've had clients who did it without lubrication, and I don't ever want that to happen to another human being again. So
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for looking out for everybody here.
yeah.
Is there a mindset that you think is useful for that as well? And
Just being open-minded, that to be patient. It's not for everyone, but I also heard like, God damn, this shit's good. Anal sex, funnily, is not a topic that's brought up a lot in my conversation. It has a bad rep. It's very forbidden. It's taboo,
which I think is probably why you're like, yes, I get to talk about this thing that
yeah,
not
because
everyone wants to talk about.
And maybe it's just the porn. It just looks like when you're watching porn, like, wow, that looks like a very nice way to experience pleasure. It's so different, but it's so forbidden. Like, it's naughty to do, and anything that's naughty must be really good in a bad way. I mean,
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. Yeah. I'm so glad that this is something that you like to talk about. And
yeah.
You
I mean,
were
you
the
know, put it
expert.
on
and
the
for sure, you're the expert. I feel like my answer as the regular guy is talk to Lisa. Right? I don't know about your regular guy answer, but mine is talk to Lisa. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. And after a little bit of like stammering and yammering, it'd be like, find someone who knows what they're talking about. And, yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. This was really great. I think that as our podcast continues and we think of more things, sex will be something that'll come up again. And I think we'll have to just have you back on because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'd love to have on one of my recordings. I'd love to do a little chat with you two on YouTube on the experiences of being a man in America.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'd love to join you with that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Again, thank you. And thank you for everyone listening today.
Thank you, everybody.
You'll find all of the resources that Lisa brought up in the description of the episode. And as always, if you have any questions, you can find us on Instagram, Men Up Together Podcast. You can email us questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. You can comment on YouTube and we can find you there. But we will look forward to seeing you next week when we continue to man up together.
Man up.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram @Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.